Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're taking a really hard look at something most of us just blindly accept as a fact of life, and that is the ultimate safety of the 9 to 5 job. I mean, is it really as secure as we've all been led to think? Or is it kind of just a comfortable trap that keeps us from realizing our true potential and building real wealth? So, in this explainer, we're going to completely deconstruct this transition from being an employee to becoming a business owner, and we'll be drawing on some absolutely eye-opening real-life case studies to do it. Let's get right into it. Okay, let's dive into this. There is no bigger drug than a salary. This right here is the foundational hurdle for almost everyone. That monthly paycheck, it acts like a completely predictable, highly addictive drip. It comforts us, sure, but it also creates this massive blind spot to real financial and personal growth. It literally keeps us exactly where we are, making the whole idea of stepping out on our own feel absolutely terrifying, even when staying put might actually be the much bigger risk in the long run. Section 1. Job versus business. Deconstructing the illusion of security. We really need to confront this universal dissatisfaction so many of us feel in the modern corporate world. We trade our time, our energy, and our potential for a steady check. But at what cost, right? People constantly avoid starting a business because they fear the pressure, the financial risk, customer demands, the crazy long hours. But let's be totally honest here. Jobs have immense pressure too. You're navigating highly toxic office politics, constantly trying to appease a manager's fragile ego, and just surviving arbitrary deadlines just to keep that quote-unquote safe desk. The big difference? Business pressure is a direct investment in your own autonomy and ultimate satisfaction, whereas job pressure just secures your boss's bottom line. And this builds into a very modern, very real fear we're all facing. Artificial intelligence is actively threatening stagnant corporate rules. If you're sitting in a comfortable, somewhat repetitive IT or corporate job right now, that illusion of security is fading incredibly fast. AI isn't some far-off future problem. It is here right now, threatening to do our jobs way faster and way cheaper. It's making that safe route look increasingly dangerous. Doing nothing and relying solely on a corporate employer? Yeah, that's no longer a safe bet. Section 2, Key Study, the flour mill, starting small and scaling up. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly what we're talking about. Let's look at a real-life example of someone who was forced out of their comfort zone and absolutely thrived. This is the story of a senior retail manager who was laid off with just 3 months of severance pay. Instead of panicking, and begging for another corporate job where he could just be fired on a whim again, he took a tiny loan of just 1 lakh rupees, a super small amount of capital, and bought a basic flour mill. Fast forward to year 5, and he is generating 8 to 10 lakh rupees in monthly sales. He didn't start with millions in venture capital or some massive factory. He literally started with a single, small machine and a willingness to try. 16,000 rupees. That was his net profit in the very first month. He rented a small space for just 7,000 rupees, promoted his new business locally with some basic flyers and community outreach, and bam, immediately turned a profit. It proves that small-scale, highly practical starts are incredibly viable. You can start generating cash flow almost immediately if you just identify a basic local need. Now, as he scaled, he faced a classic business problem: employees leaving after a few months. But instead of just complaining about the workforce like a lot of people do, he implemented a brilliant retention strategy. Rather than offering a flat, low wage, he used a fixed and variable pay model. He provided a base salary, but added performance-linked incentives based on output, and even bonuses tied directly to customer feedback. He turned unskilled labor into motivated stakeholders. They earn more, he earns more, and nobody wants to leave. It's a total win-win. Which brings us to his current reality: 1.5 to 2 lakh rupees. That is his personal take-home monthly profit today, after paying all expenses, rent, and employee salaries. It sets up a pretty stark financial contrast to what most mid-level corporate jobs offer, doesn't it? Especially when you consider that he now owns his time entirely and has built a system that actively works for him. Now brace yourself for this next number: 400 rupees. Yes, literally just 400. That is the mere 3-month profit per biga of land generated by our next case study's traditional farming setup. It is a shocking drop-off in profitability, and it perfectly introduces the incredible missed opportunities that are often sitting right under our noses. Section 3. The real fear of failure. Breaking down the psychological block. This brings us to a hesitant IT professional making 40,000 rupees a month, entirely stressed out by corporate life, yet sitting on 40 biga of family farmland. So why won't he transition? Well, the problem isn't a lack of resources. It's a paralyzing psychological block. We really have to redefine what we're actually afraid of here. The fear of failure is rarely a genuine fear of utter financial ruin. More often, it's just the fear of ego damage. It's the social embarrassment of stepping down from a prestigious white-collar title to get your hands dirty. We refuse to start businesses simply to protect our egos from a potential no, opting instead for the suffocating predictability of the cubicle.
Section 4, Modern Farming Opportunity. Upgrading traditional assets.
Once we get past that ego, we can actually look objectively at the assets we possess. For our IT worker, it's that family land down in Hardoi, Uttar Pradesh. Traditional farming there is totally at the mercy of roaming animal threats and unpredictable weather, yielding that tiny 400 rupees per biga profit we just talked about. But modern farming, specifically using poly houses like the ones booming right now in Rajasthan, that changes the entire game. It creates a fully protected environment, a controlled climate for high yields, and is highly profitable, often supported by generous government subsidies. Guys, it's the exact same land, just approached with a completely different mindset.
And how does he scale this vision without risking everything? He doesn't even have to quit his job tomorrow. He can learn modern farming techniques right now online. He can take just a fraction of his land to set up a prototype polyhouse. And since his father already has an award-winning background in dairy and sugarcane, the foundational knowledge is already there. Once he proves the model works on a small scale, he can act as a local consultant, setting up systems for his neighbors at a 20 to 30% margin, or even rent their unused land. The whole business model shifts from grueling manual labor to smart local entrepreneurship.
Section 5, New Business, New Mindset. Earning versus learning.
So the crucial point is, to make this leap from employment to entrepreneurship requires a fundamental shift in our overarching philosophy. An earning mindset is actually quite destructive here. It focuses solely on immediate money, that quick, guaranteed monthly salary, and it leaves you completely paralyzed by uncertainty. But a learning mindset? That mindset is eager to experiment. It looks at an old piece of land and asks, hey, how can I modernize this? It's about constantly upskilling so that when AI or corporate layoffs inevitably come knocking, you're already 5 steps ahead and completely self-reliant. Take a look at this. The one who is learning is alive. The one who stops learning is a living corpse. Yeah, it's heavy and it's pretty confrontational, but it's exactly what we need to hear to shake us out of our stagnant, zombie-like corporate routines. If you aren't upgrading your skills, if you aren't actively looking at the world and figuring out how things work today compared to 20 years ago, you are already falling behind. Which brings us to our final question for this explainer. Are you alive, or are you just waiting for your next salary? The transition from a job to a business isn't just about making more money. It's about reclaiming your autonomy, facing down your own ego, and choosing a life of continuous, exciting learning over the fragile illusion of corporate safety. Think about the assets and opportunities you are ignoring right now simply because you're afraid. Thank you so much for joining me, and I really hope this explainer sparks the courage for you to take that first entrepreneurial step. Catch you next time.